The weenie tap. Did you just tap yourself on accident?
I'm feeling it.
And if you put your pants on in the dark as well, then you are ready for this episode of Discography Discussion. I am Joe. That is Dan. That is Geoff. And tonight, we're talking about Testament.
Hell yes.
Oh, yeah.
You want to talk about Testament tonight, Dan?
Oh, yeah, dude, I do. I'm so excited that you guys called me and wanted to talk about Testament.
What is it about Testament that makes you so excited to talk about Testament?
Oh, I don't know, man. The riffs that they eat you alive. The solo work. Oh, my God.
So you really want to talk about Testament?
Hell yes, I do.
Well, you can forget it.
The hell you mean?
This is an intervention.
What?
We're talking about Pantera.
No, I don't think so, Joe.
You don't have a choice in the matter because we need to get this shit out of the way. We need to get through it. You need to come to terms with the fact that Pantera is a good band, and I brought help.
You brought help?
I brought help. I called Josh Toomey. I called Brandon Kellum. I might even have a couple secret weapons up my sleeve that you don't see coming.
What do you think that they're going to prove?
I think they're going to prove to you.
I've talked to those guys about Pantera already, and I know they recorded these little things, saying that they were coming after me or whatever, and it was cute and all, but yeah, I thought it was a joke, dude. I don't want to talk about this shit.
So you're saying that there's no way you can be convinced?
Not at this moment.
Why don't we find out?
Okay.
Round one.
Who's round one?
1, 2, 3, 4.
What's up? This is Josh Toomey from the Talk To Me podcast, and I've got a message out there for Dantera. You need to come over to my side, come over to the good side, and listen to some Pantera. Love what Dimebag Darrell does with that guitar. He feels the guitar. Every ounce of his emotions and body go through his hands into the pickups, out the Randall speakers, and into the amphitheaters so that everybody could hear what he had to say. So you need to love and respect Dimebag Darrell. Also, you need to listen to what Rex is doing, because Rex is a bass player. Jesus Christ. You go listen to those bass lines under Dime's solos, and you will just completely be blown away. And the man, Vinnie Paul, behind the drum kit out there, millions of tons of steel coming at you. So innovative in what he does. And Dan, if you cannot understand what I'm talking about, you just might not know music. And you've proven that by saying that Zayo is your favorite band. So we're probably never going to be on the same page on this one. So Dan, I'm coming for you. Pantera's coming for you. The Cowboys from Hell are coming for you. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right, Dan, you asked for it. Round one, Joshua Toomey from the Talk To Me podcast.
Hey, what's going on, man?
What's going on, guys? I'm here to defend my all-time favorite band, so I'm not going to put up with any of your shit tonight, Dan.
Okay, well, I got a lot of shit. Actually, I listened to Pantera a lot today.
Yeah?
And
I didn't.
You did not?
Oh, no. Not at all.
Why is that?
I was listening to some weird band from Denmark.
Oh, okay.
Well, since we're going to talk about Pantera, Denmark's exactly what you should be listening to, Geoff.
Yeah, I know. I got off topic.
Makes
Shocking,
tons
right?
of sense. So I'm just gonna start off with Pantera, one of those bands that I have said in the past that I hated. Not really changing my opinion too much on it. I wouldn't say it's a seething hatred. I mean, I'm not sitting there with a concrete sledge, smashing CDs and things of that nature.
That would be a primal concrete sledge.
Right. I would know that if I listened better. But no, I guess my biggest beef with Pantera isn't even as much of what they have done, as much as over the years I have been extremely oversold on what they have done. I hear a lot of, back in the day, man, there was nobody that was heavier than Pantera. You know what I mean? Like, at that time. And I'm like, yeah, except for, Death and Obituary and, Carcass. And I guess I'm switching up genres, but the original statement, I actually heard that on VH1. I think probably on VH1 Behind the Music on Pantera. It's like literally nobody was heavier than Pantera at that time. And I'm just like, could name probably 6 or 7 bands that were heavier than Pantera. So I guess that was one of the first bad tastes in my mouth, because before that I'd really only heard Cemetery Gates, which I still to this day say is a really good song.
Back in the day, the early to mid 90s, there wasn't any bands as heavy as Pantera in the commercial vein.
Okay.
Selling out arenas and stadiums, not necessarily stadiums, but, selling out the sheds, as they say, and, kind of flying the flag for metal. Like even a band like Metallica, did the whole cut their hair, did load, reload. And then at that same time, Pantera's doing Vulgar Display of Power. They're doing Far Beyond Driven. Far Beyond Driven was #1 on Billboard. That's, for an album that heavy. There definitely wasn't anything that heavy at that time, that big.
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
Well, Josh, you said that
Pantera
Pantera is your favorite band. Why is that?
Oh, Pantera came in at that time where I had kind of gotten into Metallica, I'd gotten into Megadeth, but I wanted something heavier, and I wanted something, that just caught me, and getting into, like the Vulgar video stuff. I mean, I think their home video stuff did a lot for me, getting me into the band, learning their personalities and seeing Dime's humor, listening to the music, getting into just, Dime's guitar playing, which I'm sure we'll get into, blew me away as a kid, and just the groove and the heaviness of the band. And they were like that pivotal band at the time. Like I said earlier, with Metallica kind of shying away from being a thrash metal band. I mean, you did have Pantera flying the flag. And so when I got to go see shows, when I'm 13, 14, 15, the first big shows I'm going to are Pantera with Typo Negative, or Pantera with Prong, and Pantera with White Zombie, like those bands. So I mean, they were that band for me at that time of my life. And once you're into a band like that in your childhood, it kind of carries over, and it's just they always will hold a special place in my heart.
Kind of like an imprint.
Yeah.
So once you got, like, for me at that time, I kind of liked Pantera, but I wasn't real big into metal in the early 90s because we're about the same age. And for me, it was Sunny Day Real Estate. So I got a lot of grief because I went the complete opposite direction. But the one thing that always brought me back to Pantera whenever I did listen to something heavy when I was a teenager was Dimebag and the tone that he had. Dude, it was, just the sounds that he could make and produce just is unrivaled, at least for me at that time. I didn't, since I was a neophyte, I didn't have anything else to compare it to. And I thought it was just it was the most amazing thing. So since we said we were going to talk about Dimebag's playing, I figured I'd bring it up now.
Okay, well, all right. So let's talk about Dimebag's playing. Again, I'm younger than you guys are. So I guess for me, when I first got into metal, I got into like metal, like underground, thrashy, deathy metal. A lot of what like what you said, Josh, about Pantera, totally true for me of bands like Zao. And that was kind of my first, like, there's nothing heavier than this, there's nothing better than this, and I still feel that way to this day. Nobody's ever really going to be able to change my mind on that, but I guess so. Whenever I started really listening to Pantera, because obviously everybody and their brother's like, you need to check out Pantera. Like, oh my God, I can't even believe you listen to metal. You don't listen to Pantera, and in that voice. Yeah. And I guess my issue with it was that, I heard it and I thought it was all right, but I'm more of a Chuck Schuldiner guy, so. When I'm looking for guitar, when I'm looking at guitar playing, I'm looking at the more technical, kind of mind blowing stuff, and like maybe it's not fair to compare Pantera to that, but in my mind, when I heard Dimebag's playing, while still being good, being technically sound, I kind of felt like it was more of like, this guy listens to a lot of different artists, kind of copycats their sound, beefs it up a little bit, and then they turn the guitar up louder than everything else on the recording. And I kind of feel like that guitar loudness was kind of more of a gimmick than anything else. And so I'm actually surprised when I hear people say like, oh my God, Dimebag's like the greatest guitarist ever. Because like I hear it all the time, and I don't hear that. I hear a guitar player that's competent. I hear a guitar player that has some good ideas, but I don't necessarily hear anything that like rocks my world. And like maybe that's a perspective thing. It's
like the Texas Van Halen.
I guess that's where my big disconnect comes from, is that like I don't, I'm never going to say that he's a bad guitar player, but I kind of feel like maybe a little bit overrated. Kind of like how everybody is with Jimi Hendrix. Like, oh, Jimi Hendrix is the best guitarist in the entire world. Well, yeah, but I mean, compared to now, not really.
Wow.
He doesn't say you're going to let him talk that much trash.
At some point, I almost threw my headphones off and just went back upstairs. You're sitting there telling me that Dimebag is just a competent guitar player. Have you watched him play solos? Like, the guy felt every single note that he did. Like, it's not like, there are bands that do Pantera covers that don't get the solos right. They don't get the feel right. Like, there's like a magic and a feel in his hands and his fingers when he played the guitar. Like he as a competent guitar player, he was winning Shred Fest guitar contest when he was like 14 years old. And yes, he was might sound like Van Halen because he loved Van Halen. Like that's not been a secret. And it's just kind of funny to hear someone say that they think that he was just took bits and pieces of other guitar players and just turned them up louder. Like that guy was a guitar player, and he's been known to say that in the guitar solo in Walk could be like 1,000,000 miles an hour and just be every note on the neck. But he also wanted to throw out a guitar solo that you could sing and, be musical with the guitar solos. So he might not necessarily play the most technical stuff, but I'm pretty sure if you put Chuck and Dime in a room together, they're probably going to be pretty comparable to one another. And actually, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, it'd be great.
But yeah, just calling Dime just kind of like a run-of-the-mill guitar player is just crazy talk.
I think you hit the nail on the head, though. I mean, he's got the emotional connection. That's what I'm like. I like Death. I like them more than I like Pantera now. But the biggest reason why Pantera was such a big band back then, I think, was the fact that there was that emotional connection. Like when you can listen to his stuff and you can feel the emotion in his playing. I mean, it's the same reason why people talk about like Stevie Ray Vaughan and how they like listening to him, because you could feel the emotion in his playing. And I think Dimebag was the same way.
Well, okay, so we want to talk about emotion. Emotion, as a guitar player, I agree. I can't really understand because I'm not a guitar player. I'm a shitty guitar player is what I am. I'm not even competent. The thing is, though, is that, when you take, emotional playing, let's say, I mean, everybody says this. Dimebag put everything into his music. I'm not going to deny that, but at the same time, you're mixing this with the most juvenile lyrics that exist, really, in my opinion, in metal. Minus all the Norwegian bands and all that, but it's hard for me sometimes to even take the playing seriously because of how juvenile the lyrics are. And I have a lot of trouble separating the two. So maybe if I had just the music, maybe at that point I would be a little bit more understanding. But as of right now, it's like I get a kind of this feeling of revulsion when I listen to Pantera because I think the music's decent, but I don't. The lyrics are so tough guy, so I'm gonna go beat my wife and go fuck a pig. It's just, he never actually says that, but that's just my probably wrong interpretation of Phil's mindset. And I think as a whole, I just have a lot of trouble separating what might be considered good guitar playing with kind of this, mediocre, not really trying very hard vocalist that can't write lyrics about anything other than how pissed off he is about you pick a topic.
Wow. I think that maybe you're only listening to Walk, which is probably my least favorite song. Because if you get into their lyrics, which I'm not a lyric person, I will never argue and say that on this line in this song, I've never been that type of person. I have openly admitted on my podcast, but there are songs like Hollow and things like that that are actually, pretty deep. Even the song that you talked about, Cemetery Gates, earlier, is not about, fucking a pig.
No, you're right. And I said that Cemetery Gates was my favorite song by them, or I didn't say that exactly, but it's a good song. But then you've got, like, what is it called? Like, Good Friends and a Bottle of Pills?
That's a terrible song. Like,
it's fucking horrible.
Yeah, when I did I actually did a breakdown of that album with Haran from Battlecross, and we both just basically said that song was garbage and skipped that song on the breakdown.
It's pretty bad. Although I have to admit, though, I probably enjoy Far Beyond Driven more than I enjoy any of the other ones. And I think that has a lot to do with just me being a hardcore guy.
Yeah.
It is very heavy for what it is. I think if I had a second favorite Pantera song, it would probably be oh shit, what was that song? What was it, like, Fighting with my Third Arm?
Use My Third Arm, I believe.
Use My Third Arm. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's like songs on that album like Slaughtered.
It's a very heavy. Yeah, it is a very heavy record. I will give it that.
And they progressively, I think, got heavier. Like the Great Southern Trendkill. I mean, you got Suicide Note Part 2. You've got the Great Southern Trendkill, the song. I mean, those, like, they progressively were getting heavier in a time when Nothing Else Matters was on the radio. You needed. They were kind of bucking that trend, and so maybe that you came into it, listening to probably like VOD and things like that. I mean, yeah, you're not those kids weren't into Pantera, like right. That's like me going into Pantera. We didn't care for Trickster or Enough's Enough, like fuck those guys. So that's maybe where the disconnect is, because like I said, going into Pantera, which also, I was a huge Sunny Day Real Estate fan. Like, those first two Sunny Day albums are fantastic. That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, man. I listen to them regularly still to this day.
I was a big fan of the Pink album, and then the Lego. What are the Fisher Price people in the cover? Whatever that album's called, Diary.
Diary.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the third one was How Does It Feel to Be Something On? That was after they broke up and came back together.
I'm going to go get a beer while you guys talk about this.
No, I could talk about them all day long. They were... They really shaped my listening, and it actually kind of brings me back to the whole thing I had with Dimebag's playing. Sunday Day Real Estate is such an emotional band. At least for me, I had a real emotional connection with the rhythm section and the singing. And it just, it totally, it caught me, and it made me want to listen to whatever, wasn't necessarily the most technical thing. Yeah, we hear it, Dan. We hear it. But I wanted to have an emotional connection with my music, because I figured that was the most important thing, is how does that music make me feel? And then whenever I hear Dimebag play, I feel like I'm fucking invincible. I mean, that's what he does for me. He makes me feel like I'm a god.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing.
We were talking about the emotional connection of music, and you brought up Stevie Ray Vaughan earlier, which I think is a great example. I don't care if you've picked up a guitar one time in your life, never, or played, 500 shows. You can watch a video of Stevie Ray Vaughan playing guitar and just see him, like, he can bend one note, and you can tell, like, everything in the entire world is into that one note. And if you go back and you watch Dimebag play the guitar, you know that everything that he has is going through his fingers. It's not, okay, well, this is the pentatonic scale of E, so I'm going to do this here. Like, no, he just knew what to do with the guitar.
That's right, because if that was the case, Yngwie Malmsteen would have been the greatest guitarist of all time, because that dude's incredibly technical.
Don't get me started on that shit.
But no, that's what he doesn't play. He doesn't play with soul. There's no emotion in his playing. He literally,
it's like a fucking robot.
He plays songs that are on a page, and yeah. I think he's incredibly talented, but I don't feel any emotion when I listen to his stuff.
You fuckers talking about Yngwie now?
Yes, we are.
Sorry,
waiting for the guitarist in the room to speak the fuck up.
You guys remember that scene in Beauty and the Beast where the little cup says, "Want to see me do a trick?" That's Yngwie. Want to see me play the same Baroque scale over and over and over again as fast as possible? All right, we get it, Yngwie.
Yeah.
But this is not about Yngwie Malmsteen. This is about Pantera.
Jesus.
I have one question.
So we've gotten way fucking far off the deep end.
So Josh, how much of the Glamtera have you heard?
I've heard all of it.
Oh shit, we're talking about Glamtera now?
So is Would you say that Phil is a good singer?
I think Phil's an amazing singer, and I think it's crazy the range of his voice from the last, Pantera album prior to Cowboys from Hell to what his voice kind of became, which was like he went from the high pitch all the way down to the death metal-y low Phil that he still kind of is today. But going back and listening to those early Pantera albums, it's like that's when they were maybe like more of a carbon copy of like, oh, well, Dawkins doing this on the radio, so we need to write video dimes, all of dimes, noodling and all that stuff. So like the guitar work was there, the songs weren't there. They were just cheesy, goofy songs that were very 80s glam songs, which you would think would get you signed and get you on the radio and get you on the Poison tour, but they just weren't there. And so it's like funny that they put out the 4 albums, but then once they like came into their own and they did the whole like the clothes don't play the songs, the dudes do, and they kind of transformed themselves into what became Pantera. You can see why they were never signed and like why they got signed right around the Cowboys from Hell time, because it all came together, And the one thing, they put out those 4 albums. Yes, they put them out on their own label. Their dad had a studio, so it's it's growing pains for any band. They just happened to.
Yeah, I think part of it too is the saturation of the market at the time. There's so many, hair metal bands out there, so much glam. It was hard to get your foot in the door at that point. You had to bring something else to the table to get noticed at that point, because that genre had been so well established.
I'm not trying to say that Phil's a bad singer. It's not where I'm coming from. I really, if I had to pick an album that I think has Phil's best vocals on it, definitely Cowboys from Hell. He sounds great on that.
Yeah.
It's just what he's singing that bothers me.
Let's face it, you just don't like Phil. That's really
I guess so. I mean,
I'm not going to blame you for that.
I'd go eat some tacos with him, I guess, but like, it'd be like kind of taking like my racist uncle to dinner, Like, I can't separate myself. I can't separate the music from the lyrics, and because I'm huge on lyrics. I'm that guy. I'm the guy that like buys a new record, goes home, sits down with it, and reads the lyrics along with the album. And sometimes I'm like really impressed by what I have experienced. But in cases like Pantera, I'm just like, really? Like, what level of quality control went into this? Like, are all the other band members like down with what he had to say about this? And so I guess that's where my main disconnect comes from, is that like you've got kind of a homophobic, semi-racist, doesn't really come across on Pantera's lyrics, I will admit that. Pantera by themselves is untarnished by the racist side of it. But I guess like for somebody being touted as being like so great, I kind of feel like it's something that really everybody should have tried to like cover up better. I kind of get this impression that like Phil is, just this loose cannon that everybody's afraid to question, I guess, and it bothers me, and I have a really hard time separating it from everything that the band has done, because like his shit is like literally all over it. And so, like, I feel like in a lot of ways, like, really good guitar playing is ruined by subject matter that I just can't get behind. And I'm not coming across I'm not coming at it from like a moral perspective. You can think about whatever the hell you want, but like at least be intelligent about it.
When did you come up with this like theory of Phil's racism? Was it just through the Dime Bash, or was it like since the 90s? I mean, that's my question to you.
Well, I guess what it really boils down to is that they were very indicative. So, like, I grew up in Imperial, Missouri, which is like 25 miles south from St. Louis. Where St. Louis is, kind of had more diversity. I went to a school called, and they were jokingly referred to as like the Great White Island, and everybody that was into metal in my school was really into Pantera, and they all kind of talked like Phil, acted like Phil. So, like, again, maybe this is like a personal thing, but it left this impression on me that was like, as far as the music goes, because like music is where I go to escape, right? So as far as music goes, I'm gonna get as far away from these people that are like bullying me as I possibly can. And so the whole racism part of it comes from the fact that like these good old boys that, you know, that go to my school and are, you know, they work as like farmhands on like their buddies' farms, because like we have farms, and you know, they're all like super like mega Pantera fans. That they only listen to Pantera. Like there's never any deviation, any kind of like variety in what they listen to. They only listen to Pantera. They only listen to Phil Zamo. And then so like when years later, you know, you had that like white power comment, which I know Phil came back and said that like they were joking. You know, backstage they were talking about like white wine, and he decided it would be funny to say like white power at the end of the set.
Right.
You know, and like maybe that's 100% true, but it's just that like there's a certain, you know, it's kind of like how like Donald Trump hasn't ever said necessarily that he's racist, but everybody just kind of gets that vibe. I guess that's kind of like where I'm at with Phil, in that, you know, he covers it up, he tries to make it sound good or whatever, but like nobody really buys it. And so like for me, whenever I heard those comments, I kind of just, it was kind of like a reconfirmation of what I'd kind of already assumed. And like, I know you're not supposed to assume or whatever, but like in Phil's case, it's just kind of like, it was one of those like the shoe fits kind of situations. I think that was the point where I stopped trying to, quote, give Pantera a chance, because I was like, I'm not going to associate myself with this, you know, and this has nothing to do with my like religious upbringing. It's 100% I don't want to sport the Pantera shirt. I don't want to put the Pantera stickers on my car and stuff, because I don't want people to think that I'm aligned with a mindset that I'm not aligned with.
Well, I think if you were still giving Pantera a chance in 2015, I'm pretty sure Pantera was never going to get into your, you know, rotation. You know, if you're still like 20 years later going, well, let's give it one more shot. I think you were pretty much, you know, sold on whether you like them or not. And it does sound like a lot to me that just because those dudes at your school listen to them, well, that made it a bad thing. Like you're associating Pantera with their fans, which is, you know, what people do with ICP with their Juggalo fans, or Slipknot with maggots, and like the rabid fan base. You know, there were tons of redneck. I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee. It doesn't get any more redneck than that. There were tons of dudes with, you know, rebel flags that listened to Pantera. And when Pantera went that direction in the 96, 97, you know, Dime started playing a Confederate flag guitar, and there were Confederate flags on their shirts. Yeah, that bothered the shit out of me, but I was already a fan. So, but I would never buy a shirt that had the Confederate flag on it, right, for whatever reason. And I'm not saying it's because it's racist or whatever. I just have never been that type of person that had that much pride in the South.
Sure, I understand.
In which, you know, I associated that more, the rebel flag, Confederate flag, with the idiots that came in from the woods, you know, to come to shows that, you know, would come in their big 4x4 trucks sporting two Confederate flags on the back, you know. So that stuff, that's where I still like drew the line with the Confederate flag nonsense. I left it to them to let them do that. But I mean, you know, the music and everything else, you know, Phil was Phil. Like Phil had like Phil-isms and Phil faces, and, you know, he would get up there and he was probably blitzed out of his mind on heroin and everything else, getting on stage and just mumbling shit into the microphone about, you know, smoke acid and, you know, snort weed and like that's what you went for. You went to hear Phil being idiots. You went to hear like, what the fuck's up shit is Phil going to say this time. So, you know, when he takes it to the point where he says white power, if he's racist or not, that's not for me to determine. Yes, when he went into the Dime Bash stuff, said all the nonsense at Dime Bash, that did, for a few days, I'm like, fuck, that's when it crossed the line for me. Listening to him say that type of stuff. Yes, if he was joking or whatnot, like I said, that's not for me to determine. I know he's just always been one to say fucked up shit on stage. So I don't know if he finally crossed the line or he spoke his true feelings. I don't know, but that's just not for me to say. But that's what you kind of go for. You go for Phil to say fucked up shit. You don't want him up there. He's not going to preach the good word. He's going to say a whole bunch of fucked up shit.
Yeah, you go for the train wreck.
Yeah, exactly.
See, I don't. I'm a huge fan of bands that present themselves better than that, and that it's a team effort. And it bothers me a lot that somebody could be so brazen as to get up there and say all this shit that really, at a certain point, you're not speaking for just yourself. You're speaking for like the band as a whole. And I know that wasn't like a Pantera thing, but I think I choose to be a fan of people that present themselves better than that. And this is coming from a guy that likes Christian metal, so it's not like the bar is set like super high. However, I can't get behind it, and I have a lot of trouble separating Phil from the band. If somebody ever wanted to release, instrumental Pantera albums, maybe I'd be a huge fan. But this guy has effectively ruined it for me.
I think I'm gonna put it in a hockey analogy since I know.
God
Josh.
damn it, Geoff!
Hey, I got it when Josh is on, so I can't help myself. But no, Phil is like the shit disturber on the ice. He's the agitator. He's the one that talks shit, gets under everybody's skin, and then everybody else has got to pick up the pieces.
A real angle.
Yep, but that was all I was gonna add.
Are you seriously comparing Phil Anselmo to Tony Twist?
No, Tony Twist is a pugilist. I'm comparing him to like Jordan Tutu.
You guys are fucking out of control.
You know what? I'm going to call round one here and say, Josh, do you have any final thoughts on Pantera? Can you convince Dan?
No fucking way.
I think the only way Dan is going to enjoy Pantera is like a few years of therapy, because he associates bands like Pantera, Slipknot, I think even ICP, if I remember correctly, bands like that. He always associates them with their fans that picked on him in high school. So you're never going to get out of that until you go and lay down on a couch, Dan, and talk this out. Cry it out, Dan, because we need
shit. Oh man,
this coming from the resident Limp Bizkit fan,
right? I mean,
right.
This is advice I'm taking from a Fred Durst fan.
Or maybe you just need to break stuff. Whatever you need to do.
Maybe I do. Maybe I need to break stuff. That's where it is. That's where it is. Geoff, you got final thoughts on Pantera?
No, not really. Because we kind of already got everything out that I felt.
Because this shit's gonna get a lot worse before it gets any better.
Yeah, I believe
we got so many people fucking lined up for this.
Yeah, that's why I don't have final thoughts yet.
Wow. So
why are you asking me for my final thoughts, dude? I don't get it.
I don't know. I'm kind of like.
I think he wants it to be over sooner than later.
I mean, I feel like
you guys want me out of here or something?
I feel like you guys tricked me or something.
And it was worth it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not convinced. I mean, Toomey had a lot of good points, but yeah, again, it's coming from a fan, and I'm not a fan, and I don't understand really what the point of all this is, because you're not going
to make you understand that Dimebag is more than an adequate guitar player.
Okay, no, we're not going to talk about Dimebag though. That's not all we're talking about. Is it? We're talking about Pantera as a whole.
Yeah, but you're downplaying the most important part of the band.
I'm not downplaying anything. Everybody overplays it. I mean, listen to those records, dude. It's like the guitars turned up louder than everything.
Okay.
So
before Geoff goes for the kill here, I'm going to segue into our good buddy Aaron Kusterer, Dan.
Oh, okay.
He's
on my side, right?
Because
I respect that dude.
You can decide for yourself, because he caught wind of what was going on, and he said, I need to say a few things. I said, well, why don't you just call in? So
get him on the phone.
Well, he already did. So you're just going to have to hear what he had to say, and then you can tell me what you think about that.
Okay.
I don't understand how you can deny Pantera's influence on the metal community. I know so many people that are far more metal than I will ever be, so I've never called myself a metalhead, but I have great appreciation for it. And I know that those people, typically around your age, Joe, and my age as well, their upbringing in music, specifically those that are metalheads, it almost always involved Pantera, in one form or another. You have the others as well, Megadeth, Metallica, and a handful of others, but Pantera was definitely a staple in that kind of thing, and I don't understand how you could possibly deny that. I mean, come on, Cowboys from Hell. It's hard to. What else do you need to say? I mean, you can look at a ton of other things. The solo on Domination is pretty ridiculous. Every track on that album is just like searing, rip your face off kind of vibe. But I don't know. Help me out. What is Dan's issue with Pantera?
It's 90% Phil is racist and the rest of the band is overrated.
Okay, well, at the risk of getting political, I'm going to stay away from that one. I will say this: I have read some of the things that Phil has said, and I believe that while yes, you have freedom of speech as an artist and everything, I don't think that that's cool. I think that's pretty low class to say certain things like that on the mic. But regarding the rest of the band being overrated, I think you have to look at all that stuff in context. You have to look at what they did. If we're not talking about session players here, okay, that's a different caliber of musician. Okay, it's not that the guys in Pantera aren't musicians, because they certainly are. Okay, but to say that they're overrated, I don't think that's fair, because you look at their contribution to music, and good God, you listen to Dimebag Darrell's, solo. I'm not a solos on all throughout the albums that they had. He's not a tone junkie. He's never anybody that when you think of the concept of tone, good guitar tone. He's not, he's not somebody that I would put in the same ballpark as Geoff Beck as far as sound or something like that. But when you come from a chop standpoint, and the chops paired with the rest of the band's just aggressive groove that they threw down. I mean, good Lord, that is an unreal kind of tour de force that I have a hard time arguing against. I would never argue against that, because you take all of those guys, you put them together for the albums that they did, and they came out with some seriously searing, rip your face off kind of metal, and I don't see the argument.
Boom! Round 2. What do you say to that?
That's round 2.
Wow.
Dude couldn't even call and talk to me face to face.
Yeah.
He had to leave you a voice message about it.
He's a very busy man.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
apparently so, because he has no gag reflex. He's got all the band members all at the same time, so that's why he's so fucking busy.
Jeff, you and the Beep are going to get to know each other.
Well, it just sounds like a fanboy rant to me. I mean,
I heard.
yeah, I mean,
3 words. He is legend.
no, okay,
No,
so
wrong band.
So
Wrong
he
band.
was. So okay, so let me get this out of the way. I respect Aaron as a guitar player 1,000%. I do. He's great. He's fantastic. I like him more than I like Dimebag Darrell. So
Well, apparently, coming from you, that's not saying a whole lot, though.
no, I mean, I like him, and the thing is that I respect his opinion to a point, but you're not gonna telling me that the band can't be argued against and can't be criticized because they're just so great or whatever. It kind of doesn't really hold any weight, because I mean, that's like somebody being like a dictator and they're like, hey, never say anything bad about Hitler because he can't be argued with. He's always right. It's kind of the same thing. I mean, that type of mindset of like, oh, well, they just did so much for music. My personal opinion, I don't think that metal in general would be as different as people think it would be without Pantera. A world without Pantera, imagine.
Oh, I disagree with that.
We would still be all obsessed with Eddie Van Halen. Oh, wait, we still are.
Well, I say I mean, I don't hear the impact necessarily because, I mean, think about like a lot of the bands that are popular now. I don't feel like a lot of the bands that are out now sound like Pantera. Like, they don't have that influence. I hear a lot of bands that sound like Metallica. I hear a lot of bands that sound like Slayer. You know, I hear that. I hear a lot of bands that sound like Testament.
Yeah, which is who we should have been doing, but no.
Yeah.
Your intervention was much more important.
Still pretty upset about this, but...
That's okay.
Glad to see you're still on board at this point, Geoff.
I mean, I'm just going to say that, you know, Aaron, I respect you, man, but I guess I just disagree. I mean, your argument can't be, well, you can't question it because they just had such an impact. Well, you know, go into that. Explain to me exactly the impact that you're talking about. Give examples. And that would have been really great had you been able to talk to me face to face. But I think really what it really boils down to is you couldn't argue and just didn't want to. So your method of delivery is indicative of your argument. That's all I have to say.
Well, seeing as how it, at least to me, it looks like this is a, you know, 1-1 here. 1 win in favor of Dan, or 2, depending on who you ask.
I think there was a tie, maybe a split decision on the Toomey episode. But the part 2, that was all Dan,
so
all day long.
I'm basically saying that I'm 0 for 2 at this point, so I need to bring out the big guns.
Yeah, I like big guns.
Who are the big guns? I mean,
what are we referring to with big guns here?
You know what? With that being said, round 3, let's set some standards.
All right, brother. Dan, you think that Pantera doesn't have what it takes? Well, you need a walk-on, homeboy, because Pantera is going to show a vulgar display of power on your ass like you've never seen before. So, listen to everything in Pantera's discography from very beginning to, I don't know, Reinventing the Steel, I think. Maybe I should do my research before this. And then you'll realize that Pantera is the only band, the one band that matters when it comes to metal.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, representing the American standards, Brandon Kellum. Dan, you survived 2 rounds. You're not ready for this.
I don't know, man. I think these guys aren't ready for what I got.
Well, take it away.
I mean, my God, man. Like, this band. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's fucking Pantera. What are we going to do? Like, do you know that if they heard the shit that you're talking about and they'd come to your house and beat your ass? And I'm like, well, you know, only some of them will. Which is a little rough, but, you know, it's the truth, right?
And what emo bands are you listening to? I mean, when you're trying to get your metal fix, are you putting on Dashboard Confessional or...
You know, here's the thing about emo, if you really want to go down that road. When I listen to emo, all I think about are bands like Circle Takes the Square and City of the Caterpillar, which, in their own respect, still kind of evokes a heavier feeling than Pantera and actual legitimate emotions being displayed versus whatever the fuck this is.
I mean, Phil shows some emotions. Yeah, they're albeit racist at times, but they are emotions.
Right, but like, I mean, so if I want to listen to metal, like I listen to it because it's a rebellion, right? A rebellion against the system or people's conventions or whatever. But like Pantera is like taking your fucking drunk uncle to Applebee's.
And that's always a great time.
It might be a great time for you, but for me, I'm just sitting there like, oh God, I hope he doesn't talk to the fucking waiter. Oh God!
I was about to say, no one's thought about the waiter on this one.
It's a female waiter, and she's black. Oh my God! So, you know, maybe that makes me racist for even pointing those 2 facts out, but I don't know, man. Like, you know, as a vocalist, you have to at least on some level be listening to Pantera and thinking like, there's no way that happened. There's a really good song I'm actually going to use to demonstrate that fact. It's off of Far Beyond Driven. It's called Good Friends and a Bottle of Pills.
I'm sure that happened. I think that was actually in the Pantera VHS that I had.
Oh, okay. Well, if it's on VHS, it's true then.
Absolutely.
But I mean,
like
listen to this beautiful, poetic set of lyrics that I'm going to read here. So it goes a little something like this. I fucked your girlfriend last night while you snored and drooled. I fucked your love. She called me daddy, and I called her baby, and I smacked her ass. I called her sugar, and I ate her alive until daylight. Sorry, my bad. Daylight, not just midnight. He's not half-assing it here. And
no, he's just eating her ass.
Right, and I slept with her all over me. From forehead to rib cage, I dripped her ass. Dripped, I don't know.
It's Phil, man. Don't try to figure it out.
Sometimes I thought you might be spying, living out some brash
Dan might be just
fantasy.
as illiterate as Phil.
Or just as drunk, at least.
I'm sure of that.
Yeah, my favorite... I guess my favorite part of it was, but you wouldn't know what you were doing because I didn't. Your girlfriend could have been a burn victim, an amputee, a dead body, but goddamn, I wanted to fuck.
Well, first off, those lyrics are taken out of context. So,
please enlighten me.
Talking about his mom.
Dan was going through Phil was going through a very hard time in his life. Yeah, he's talking about actually his sister. His sister had this crazy run-in back in the 80s. And this is him kind of reenacting that to kind of show that people aren't alone in this world when they go through these things. So I think you're being a little bit you're being that. That's what you're being.
Okay, so I'm being that. Got it.
You've been that for a long time, man.
It's weird, too, because there's this song on Cowboys from Hell, which, full disclosure, Cowboys from Hell might be my favorite Pantera album. Because it's a little bit less douchey. And I mean a little bit. Like, it's like 4% less douchey than Vulgar Display of Power was. So I'm down with that. Cemetery Gates was a cool song, right? But
yeah, no. But Vulgar Display of Power, I think, is inarguably the best album by Pantera, so you're completely wrong. Whatever you're going to say, go on, but wrong.
Okay, so it was the best album by, record sales, or it's, the best album as far as, people that have ears and can listen to music?
Yeah, the just best album by me, which is the gold standard. The American standard. Which, by the way, we have a new album
plug.
out.
Oh, God.
Pick it up on iTunes and Amazon.
Right. So
Now, this is not a plug fest here yet. This is the battleground. Come on.
So what are you going to say about what album you get into, Cowboys from Hell?
So there's this song on Cowboys from Hell called, it's called Heresy. It's about religion. And anybody that knows me knows how I feel about religion. And, I don't know, I guess the best part of it is, my stand is the human race without a label or a face so they can lick my sack.
Oh, shit.
Damn, give this guy a fucking Pulitzer. He really writes lyrics that really cut down deep to the human condition.
I think he probably used a thesaurus, though, to make sure that he didn't put balls, and he used sack.
Right, he could have said testicles, balls,
scrote.
Yeah, clever.
Scrote.
So, Brandon, are you trying to say that he's intelligent because he's using academic tools to expand his lyrical prowess?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Thanks, Joe.
Well, Joe's a fucking Pantera fanboy, so he's licking the sack. You know it.
At least twice a day.
The one thing I've got to say about Pantera, the reason this wins out for me, and this can entirely be different for you, I think different for everybody, but the whole deal about Pantera is Pantera was rebelling against the generation before, so all the horrible stuff that was coming out of the 70s and the 80s hair metal, and not to say that there weren't great bands from that time too, but mainly all the hair metal and crap. Pantera took this, they went bigger, well, arguably bigger than most of the other bands in their genre, and they still went heavier and heavier as they went. They didn't start throwing in choruses. They didn't start throwing in these verse chorus structures that were popular, and they were the entire time fighting in the sense that the punk rock bands were fighting, but fighting on the metal front, and made it to probably one of the top biggest or 5 biggest bands of all time. and especially in the metal genre. I mean, I would say there are probably within the top 3 biggest metal bands of all time.
Well, Brandon, how familiar are you with the Glamtera stuff then?
Oh no, not that.
Because
Don't bring up those times.
So if they're against it, were they always against it, or did they become against it because they just couldn't cut it as a glam band? Because that's kind of how I'm feeling.
If they stayed a glam band into the 90s, that would have been ridiculous, right?
I mean, even Joshua Toomey, who we talked to earlier, admitted on his first appearance on our podcast that, you know, with Glamtera, the songs just weren't there. So they're against glam metal, right? But like, are they? Like, really? Because that seemed to be like what they were trying to make their bread and butter. But the weird thing is,
we all did stupid stuff when we were young, right?
Yeah, I get that.
I just think they were looking for the almighty dollar.
The weird thing is that, like, you know, they really couldn't make it as a glam band. So like, if glam is so bad and so evil or wrong or whatever, like they feel the need to like change it up and be this like fucking tough guy band. Like, I just don't see it, man. I don't understand how like they couldn't even make it as a glam band. So is this one of those like, those who can't do teach, and those who can't teach gym? Like, is that kind of where Pantera's at?
And they're a damn good gym teacher. And for that, I salute them.
You know, Phil Azamo does remind me of a lot of gym teachers that I had over time. It's probably the reason I'm overweight today.
You're saying Phil diddled you? Or, I mean, the gym teachers did?
No, I don't know about that.
I definitely know Phil didn't.
I definitely repress those memories if they are actually memories. Yeah, man, I don't know. Like, I have a lot of trouble really taking anything that this band says seriously. And like, yeah, you can definitely say that, like, because I mean, we talked about the music side of it with Josh Toomey already.
Yeah, take the words out and put the music in there. There's probably no better guitarist in the metal genre at that time than Dimebag.
Well, okay, so
yeah, his tone was just obnoxious. It was so good. Phil is such a dick. It kind of overpowers everything else. It's kind of like, it doesn't matter how much Axe body spray you put on you. If you smell like a piece of shit, guess what? You're still a piece of shit. You just got Axe body spray all over you.
Well, so the music on Pantera is great. Sure, Dimebag's great guitarist. You know, I can't deny that as a metal fan.
And Vinnie Paul's one of the best drummers out there too at that time.
But I'm gonna also throw it and say that, you know, Dimebag's great, but is he original?
I mean, original by today's standards or original at the time?
Even at the time.
I would say at the time.
Because I hear a lot of like Eddie Van Halen in Dimebag's playing. But I don't think it's different enough for me to say like, okay, I'm not gonna listen to I'm gonna listen to Dimebag Darrell instead of Eddie Van Halen. And then I've got this racist fuck as the singer, so like I'm gonna go back and listen to fucking Van Halen.
That's unfortunate.
I'm not gonna listen to this shit.
I mean, I would say if you put on a song with in absence of any vocals, you're gonna know it's a Dimebag playing guitar back then. To me, there's no doubt about that. You're not gonna get him mixed up with Van Halen.
That's more mixing though, right? Because like his guitars are louder than fucking everything else on the recording.
Thank God.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, you can kind of drown it out or whatever, but like I guess the question I have is why should I have to? Yeah, he's a great guitarist and everything, but like, yeah, there are a lot of good guitarists from this time period, but like he's not a Chuck Schuldiner.
Do we all have to be that though?
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. I like tech metal bands, so like I'm not like, I don't listen to Dimebag's playing and like I'm not like so impressed.
Really?
By it like everybody else seems to be.
You've got to be partially deaf. You got to go get that checked.
No, I mean, I think it's okay, but I listen to a lot of bands that I think are a lot more technical and a lot more musically relevant, even from that time period. But, you know, I guess that's what it is for mainstream music fans. It's easy to just point at one guy and say he's the best.
Okay. I know I'm supposed to be fighting here, but I can see that side of it. I can absolutely see that side, and I think it's all about. There was probably 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 other guitarists at that time that were doing it as good as him, if not better. But the fact that when they finally broke and they started getting, you know, all over the charts and started getting album sales like no other band in their genre, instead of opposite direction, scaling it back. They only went more and more. So yeah, there's always going to be bands that are more technical and faster and heavier and louder and whatever else. But they decided, once they hit that echelon of that, they decided to continue to push it and start doing stuff that was like, I mean, yeah, they had the glam stuff, and then they had stuff like Cemetery Gates, which was a little more, down tempo or low key, and then into the heavier stuff too, and then stuff like Suicide Notes, which is a little more experimental. So they had so much stuff that was just at every level of what they were doing. None of it was marketable, but it was still getting pushed to everywhere,
Right, but just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean that you should. I mean, sure, they got heavier over time, but like, do you think that the Great Southern Trendkill was a better record than Cowboys from Hell?
Oh no, I don't think that at all. I think it's a different record. I mean, I don't think Cowboys from Hell is a better record than Vulgar Display of Power, but that's just me. I also think that all comes to the nostalgia factor from where you are when you hear it, right?
I guess so, but like, I guess what it boils down to is like, where does this? How does this supposedly best guitar playing ever? How does that fit into the whole tough guy image of the band? Like, did the other members of the band, like, were they afraid of Phil Izamo? Because like, there's no way this passed through some kind of like quality control filter where everybody was like, he gets done talking about like a motherfuck, like that's a word, right? And it's a fucking, it's a motherfuck, and everybody's like, yeah, thumbs up, man. That's the most creative thing I've ever fucking heard in my life. Let's do it. Let's make it reality. Let's do it.
It was a different time. No one's listening to the lyrics. It's like the person that listens to a metal song for the first time, and they're not really into metal, and they're like, yeah, I like the beat. Just like the beat, Dan. Like the beat.
Well, I mean, sure, everybody's got to start somewhere, right? But like, I mean, is this really where you want to start?
Absolutely.
Like, is this the impression? Like, do you feel comfortable showing people metal as a whole and like starting them with this? Because it seems to me like there's going to be more people that are going to be like, yeah, no way.
If anybody reads the lyrics on the Pantera stuff and this is their first go around with metal, they're pretty much going to say fuck it. They're not going to be interested at all. Or
it's going to be fucking terrifying and they're going to be all about it. And that's the scariest part, because like,
tap into their dark side.
I haven't met very many guys that wear Pantera shirts, Brandon withstanding, that aren't total douchebags. Like, literally, it's like they're like, I want to wear this Pantera shirt, but like, they're not wearing Pantera shirts because they like Pantera. I mean, that's part of it, but it's more like, hey, I listen to Pantera and that fucking says something about me. And unfortunately, that doesn't say the things about you that make me think, okay, yeah, let's be friends, let's hang out.
Most people I know that wear Pantera shirts don't even fucking know what they're listening to if I actually put Pantera on.
In all honesty, though, what person starts off with a band by reading the lyrics? Like that's
I do.
Us,
Dan does, because he's weird.
Because we're vocalists and we're older, of the older generations. But when it comes down to it, like, the people that are listening to this stuff, regardless if it's Pantera or insert any other heavy band, they're listening to it as like, especially when it comes to teenagers, like, they want to find something that just annoys the crap out of the mainstream. And Pantera is that. They're not looking at the lyrics and saying, I identify with these lyrics. I don't think anybody's looking at Phil's lyrics and saying they identify with them. They just sound really fucking cool when you have no clue what he's talking about.
See, I think that there's a...
So is that why ICP is so popular too?
Well,
exactly.
So I think that there's probably actually an uncomfortable amount of people that listen to those lyrics and 100% identify with them.
Joe, can we go to the phones?
Yeah, we can go to phones.
All right. Who's calling in? Do we have anybody calling in on this? We've got to get some real field research here on this.
Nobody's calling in because I destroyed the switchboard. Only my opinion matters.
Damn it.
Now, I am going to step in a little bit here and say, Brandon, are you, as the lead vocalist of the band American Standards, saying that Pantera is good because the lyrics don't matter?
I'm saying in Pantera, the lyrics mean the least, by far. For me, it's all Dimebag Darrell's guitar and Vinnie Paul on the drums. Rex to a very smaller extent, but he's a bassist and really needs them to begin with, right? Phil, like, the lyrics is at the very bottom of the pyramid. Like, yeah, and he sounds cool saying whatever the hell he's saying, but honestly, even being a Pantera fan myself, I don't know what the hell he's saying half the time.
But doesn't that bother you?
So you're saying that his emotion that he sings with is more important than what he's actually saying?
Yeah, I would say that. Sure, why not?
Jeff, are you switching sides here?
I think I am.
I kind of feel like at the end of this call that Brandon and Dan are actually on the same page, and Jeff is going to take a stand.
I don't think that me and Brandon are on the same page about this band.
I think 100% I love Pantera, and I think Pantera is a shining example of a fantastic metal band from that time that still holds up today. But I completely agree. If I have to give you any slack, I agree. The lyrics are bullshit, and Phil definitely seems like a douchebag.
See, I can't hold to Pantera anymore because of Phil. He's such a cock. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, the guy is such a royal douchebag that it just makes me. He ruins their legacy with how he approaches the world and how he speaks about other people that are not exactly like him.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that I have with a lot of metal sometimes is that, you know, they're saying, oh, you're different, fuck you. And he's exactly what's wrong with metal, and it should never ever be the ambassador for metal because of what his personal beliefs are, and it ruins the image for all of the rest of metal. I don't care how good they were in the past. I don't care how amazing their music is, because if you could like cut everything personally out that Phil does, and then what his lyrics mean, Pantera is awesome. But that's like saying, well, you know,
are they awesome?
Well, yeah, I think they are. I think they're great. But that's like saying, hey, you know, baseball records don't matter because they took steroids. Well, no, they took steroids. So some people it matters to it, and that's who I am. It doesn't matter what Mark McGuire and Barry Bonds did because they fucking cheated. You know, it's the same thing with Phil. He's a douchebag, and I cannot not listen to Pantera and think about how terrible of a human being he is.
I think Keith from Every Time I Die had a tweet that was kind of relevant to this, where he tweeted, "I had one more hero die today, or one of my heroes died today," and it was after he heard about what Phil had said.
Right.
So I think separating the art from the artist, obviously that's huge, and I almost wonder. I question for all you guys. Like when you say that, do you say that based on you having that mindset all along, on that's what he was singing about, and you knew that he had those thoughts built into the lyrics in any sort of way, whether he does or doesn't? And I honestly, like I said, I have no clue, or just based off of everything that's happened past the fact, and like everything that he's done out in the public, which is obviously horrible and horrendous, and then saying, well, since he's done that, that must mean that those thoughts go back into the stuff that he did 20 years ago.
Well, so my problem with that is that, like, you talk about separating the art from the artist or whatever, but, like, I mean, I feel like he does mean it. I'm pretty good at detecting sincerity in lyrics. And even though I do say that some of the tough guy image is fake, like the walk out homeboy and all that shit, like, that seems very fake to me. But I think some of the stuff that he says is that he does mean it. Because why the hell would you write it down and put it on an album if you didn't mean it, right?
Yeah. But I guess what I'm getting to is, like, when you first heard that, were you already cognizant of that being a thing? Or did you just listen to the music and you didn't care for it, and now you go back and you read the lyrics and you're like, oh shit, he's saying some really horrible stuff. I like the
music, but like even in the 90s, I didn't think it was anything that was like that special. And maybe I'm unique in that regard, but because I had heard stuff, I'm in my 30s, but like I grew up Pentecostal, so like I didn't really get exposed to heavy music until later than most people. So like by the time I heard Pantera, Trendkill was already out. So like I didn't grow up with Cowboys. I didn't grow up with Vulgar Display, and
there's a certain old church on the teen nights.
Yeah, not as much. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little older, so I grew up on it. So, and I didn't really pay attention to the lyrics. I've always
Jeff's
been
old as shit.
I am. I'm even older than Toomey. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, but you don't know more.
Oh, that's true. But no,
not
I
as
grew up.
learned.
I grew up on it, and it was more about the emotion and the feel, and that was really important to me, and it still is in today's music. But whenever I start going down the rabbit hole and I find out, all these terrible things about him, yeah, it just totally turns me off. I can't not think about it anymore. So yeah, he's a disgusting pig of a man, and I will never give him credit for anything ever again.
So you guys trying to tell me that you're not listening to Lost Prophets now too?
I do
Just
not.
because
No.
you had a little slip up?
Well, I didn't like a little slip off. Got it.
That little sleep.
We all make mistakes, right? But with Phil, it's just I can't get past it. It does ruin the music for me, and the music itself isn't special enough for me to actually feel bad about that.
And Brandon, I'm going to step in here and say we are slightly over time on this round, but since you are the challenger, I'm going to give you the last 60 seconds. Whatever you got to say it now.
Dan's made a lot of bad choices in his life. Obviously, he drove 4 hours to come see American Standards. So when considering this, you should just think anything he says is probably because he's drunk. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All I have to say is I'm right, you're wrong, and this call's over.
And Dan's drunk. I threw that in there because
Absolutely, he is drunk.
I mean, I'm not that drunk.
no, you're just on a constant plateau of drunk. There's no
Well,
spike.
I'm the one that got tricked here.
How did you get tricked?
I don't know. Hey, Dan, let's come over and talk about Sex Testament. It'll be so great. Everybody's going to love it. And then, I show up, all prepped to listening to Testament all week, which was great lead up to that. And then now you've got all your bros coming after me about Pantera.
Dude, I'm on your side.
And I appreciate that.
Isn't this cathartic?
I appreciate that, but I'm not surprised. It's
He
the
feels
right,
slightly betrayed, I think.
it's the right side.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we
in
proved
a
that.
lot of ways, I don't understand how people aren't.
Am I making any headway here? Am I gaining any ground at all with you?
Absolutely not.
Not really, dude.
Not only are you losing to Dan, but you lost me.
Wait, what else you really got, man? I don't really. I'm not convinced by this. Toomey did a really good job, but
Yeah, this is like becoming an infection.
the other
Dan's
guests
infected
that
me.
you've had really haven't. Shit, it sounded more to me like Kellum agreed with me more than he disagreed. So,
Unfortunately, it seems that way, so.
yeah, I'd be very interested to see what else you got.
This is Erik from the Shoot the Shred podcast. I'm here to say a few things about Pantera and Dan. Both are pretty cool people, and both involve, great stuff. However, if you don't like Pantera, yet you enjoy metal, I don't know how the disconnect happened. Guitar-wise, as legendary as Dimebag is, he is not an amazing technical player. He plays solid state amps, totally does everything you're not supposed to do, plays a pointy guitar with a Confederate flag on it, and he still holds the throne after all these years he's even been gone as one of the king riffers of all time. Pantera they were very influential to a lot of bands, he is Legend specifically, and I just think from a heavy standpoint, every band that has any sort of heavy riffing or any kind of party atmosphere, they think they have Pantera to thank. And even if Dan doesn't like it, well, you know what? Everybody else does. I don't know. I'm not a mean guy, so I can't trash Dan. However, I do think he's entirely wrong. That's probably about it. I'm too nice.
Round 4, Joe, bring it on. Who the fuck else you got?
Who do you think, man? We got Erik Hall from Shoot the Shred. I'm pulling out all the stops.
Dude, we just talked to him.
We did not.
Yeah, we did.
What, 2 weeks ago?
A few weeks ago.
I don't know when.
He is legend.
I had to edit this at some point. I forgot what the timeline is.
Him and I got along on a spiritual level. Come on. What do we got here?
Are you trying to say you like the guy, but you're about to disagree with him heavily?
I like the guy. I just, I heard the promo and I was... You know, it's one of those things where, like, okay, your guitar's loud. You have a Confederate flag, so I guess, like, you win points with someone, I guess. And you're heralded as the greatest guitar player in the world. Now, of course, I'm talking about Dimebag and not Erik, although Erik is, beast also. But it's one of those things where I just the word overrated comes to mind. And I know Josh Toomey took issue to that, and I apologize, and he has a legitimate opinion as well. But the thing is that I can't get into it, and I do disagree with him whenever I say that he's not. Dimebag's cool, but he's no Chuck Schuldiner. There's a lot of bands that I like that are super technical, like Tesseract, and it's hard for me, I guess, at this day and age in 2007 or 2017 to say, oh yeah, well, Dimebag's the greatest guitarist ever, because I've heard better, man. So I mean that's kind of where I'm coming from.
I wouldn't say he's the greatest guitar player of all time. I think it's even hard to say who is, but in terms of what he what he influenced, see, that's another one. See, this is why I have no street cred, because you say the name and I'm like, is that the guy from Death?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Okay, no, I've never listened to Death before. See,
you should listen to the Death episode with Travis Turner of As the Story Grows.
See,
he's
I'm
crazy,
finally
crazy
going
technical.
back. I'm finally starting to go back into the realm of music I missed because I'm young. But Pantera, a band I got into. I mean, when I was younger, and that stuck with me, and I still listen to it. Like I said, not the greatest guitar player ever. And this is another reason I think they're so important, is because it wasn't so much about that. I think I think it's timeless stuff, and I think what's timeless about it, and you still hear in music today, it's just the tightness between drummer, guitar player. I mean, that kind of riffing together, fast playing influence, or infusing like the bluesy stuff into the rock, to the metal is there, that he brought that. And like I said, he uses amps that, people would laugh at, that he just has solid state amps, Dean Razorback guitars. I mean, it's like, it just shouldn't work, but it does. And he also had the persona. He was, he's a guy that was himself always, and nobody ever has anything bad to say about him. Even before he died, the people were the same way. Not like it's people after the fact are saying, he was great, when really he wasn't. They're just, that's how everybody happens when everybody dies. But he was just a guy that accepted everybody into the community. And I don't know, I would say I would have more of a point of contention with Phil, because he's kind of historically been kind of an asshole.
Kind of.
Way to just straight up agree with Dan on that one, Erik.
Okay, so I think
I can't help it. I'm like in the middle. I know what you're saying though, but at the same time,
Phil is such a cock that he almost makes Pantera unlistenable just because of who he is.
Yes.
Which is a shame, because like you said, Daryl is such a cool dude. I'm like, how the hell did those two guys coexist? Because Phil is just he's the biggest dickhead in metal, in the history of metal, in my opinion.
Well, they kind of didn't get along, because by the time you got to Great Southern Trendkill and Reinventing the Steel, the band was essentially recording instrumentals, and Phil was doing the vocals in a totally different studio halfway across the country.
But at least they were still doing it. Most other bands
that's
would have said fuck you to each other and just gone their separate ways, and that would have been it.
Maybe that's what should have happened.
That probably should have been what happened.
I feel like I'm making your point, Dan. I apologize.
So, let's get back to Dimebag. There's a distinctive difference between good and great. Am I right? Like, yeah, it's a sin to say that Dimebag's not the greatest guitarist to ever live. Oh my God, Jimi Hendrix times 50. But I've heard heavier. I've heard more technical. I've heard more original even. And it's not that I think that the Dimebag's a bad player. Like I told Josh Toomey, I find him to be completely, he's proficient. He does a really good job at what he does.
This will be the only time I'll actually defend Pantera is Daryl. You feel what he plays.
I would say the instruments as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, And I said that before in the Toomey portion of this. Yeah, he's what is good in Pantera, and unfortunately, Phil is everything that's terrible about Pantera. That I have such a hard time listening to Pantera now because of his beliefs and his.
So you're saying you can't separate yourself from the lyrics?
No, I'm saying I can't separate myself from the human being because he's a piece of trash.
And why is that? Why do you feel that way?
I could, number one, obviously his white power statement that he made.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was
white
just
wine, man. It was white wine.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
was just a joke, bro.
that's
It's about wine.
Yeah, I mean, he got called out on that though too.
yeah. I heard that and I was like, I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, if you actually
Not even close to surprise.
No, just like,
Yeah,
if
if you
you
actually- Yeah, if you listen to what Rob from Machine Head had to say as rebuttal, since he was there,
yeah.
and talk about just completely shutting somebody down and calling somebody a lying bastard, essentially calling a spade, because I mean that's what Phil is. I mean, Toomey tried to say it's a persona on stage. Bullshit. He's a piece of shit. I don't care if he acts like he's playing it or not. If he was legitimate about it, he wouldn't have made up that bullshit white wine statement after the fact.
Stupid.
Yeah, I mean it's
He'd
completely
just owned
stupid.
it if he believed it.
Yeah, well,
That's almost worse.
it's because
Exactly. If
it's
you're like,
because
yeah,
he's
no,
a
that's what he
pussy.
meant. It's like, no. The thing about Phil too is I
He's a
love
bully.
Pantera. I love everything that they've done. I listen to it. I think it's an important piece of musical history. Everything that they've done, it definitely made its mark. But I don't like Down and I don't like Superjoint Ritual, and I think it's because Phil's in there, and I just don't like. I like who he was surrounded by in Pantera, but I don't really care for what he was surrounded by in his other projects. I really just don't care. I've never cared.
So do you
But
like Hell
Pantera-
Yeah then?
Say it again.
Do you like Hell Yeah then?
No, I don't like Hell Yeah, but I love Damage Plan.
Okay.
Damage Plan was really cool. I like Damage Plan. That was, but I think I like Dimebag. I think that's why I like Pantera.
Gotcha.
To be contrary to why you don't like him is because you don't think that Dime is anything special. I think that he's the most special part
That's
of that
not the
band.
main reason.
I know there's probably a whole bunch more, but I think those two guys together, that's made one of the major bummers that when he was assassinated is that those two guys wouldn't continue to be playing music together.
It was very unfortunate.
For selfish reasons. I mean, obviously they're brothers and everything, but they were so tight together that what a duo, guitar drum duo. Usually the bass player and the drummer, what you see the tightness in, and not that Rex Brown was bad, but Dime and his brother Vinny were just insane. That's why I like Damage Plan a lot, but I never liked Hell Yeah that much. I like Chad when he was in the first two albums of Mudvayne. After that, I just feel like, who is
Yes,
this?
the first two Mudvayne albums.
Yeah, LD50
I'm just
is
saying,
great.
not to go off on another tangent, which I'm very good at tangents, but
We'll call you back for the Mudvayne episode.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
That'll sound more like an In Flames episode.
Can we stop at LD50 and call it a day?
It's gonna be
man,
rough. We're gonna have to
that
fight
album.
with who's gonna be ranting.
How come Adam Ship only puts out one album, but Mudvayne gets to live past their only good one?
Right? No shit. Yeah.
These are the things that keep me up at night, you guys.
So with Pantera, what it really boils down to me is that I can't separate myself from the lyrics, and I don't think that I can't separate the music from the lyrics, and I can't really get behind the music because, and I think this might be a personal flaw, but I'm not a big fan of traditional heavy metal.
Not me either, really.
I don't like Kiss. I don't really like AC/DC.
I don't either.
I don't like Accept that much.
I think we're like best friends.
We are, man. We're well.
I love his legend and don't like classic metal.
Oh yeah. So I think it's one of those things where the fact that Pantera was more rooted in traditional heavy metal bothers me. I almost feel like I would give them more of a free pass if they were a thrash band or if they were a death metal band. And they are heavy. I mean, they're heavy as piss in places, but I can't get past the lyrics because, like I told Brandon Kellum, because his whole argument was that I don't think anybody pays attention to the lyrics, and I countered with I think an uncomfortable amount of people identify with the lyrics and follow along. And so it's not the world I want to live in.
See, I was in the same boat as, Brandon. I was there for the vibe, but we've kind of made that pretty well established that I'm looking for the whole package, and I don't really pay attention to the lyrics up front. That's something that's an afterthought for me. But whenever everything happened, with Phil, is more and more of his outlandish behavior became apparent that's more of his personal beliefs. That's what turned me off to the band. It sucks because I love Dimebag. He's one of those guitarists that you can listen to and you can feel it. I mean, what he's playing, and it's amazing. You can't always make an emotional connection, with a guitarist, but you can with Dimebag, and it's. I mentioned Stevie Ray Vaughan with Toomey, and I really believe that. Both of those guys, are the two most prominent in my mind as far. Obviously, they're different styles, but you can feel every note that they play because they put every ounce of their being into what they play, and it sucks that they're saddled with the bad apple that is Phil. I mean, because he kind of ruins it for me, and he really does.
It's weird because he ruins it, yet he makes it like. I mean, what if they had a different singer? I mean, you can't say that Phil was. I don't know. I don't really like the way he sounds so much now, but in his prime, I mean, he was like. Oh no, that's an animal. But it's you're right.
No, that's what I'm getting at.
It sucks. He's so good, but yet he's such an ass. Like
you just. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Because because I loved it. I mean, I grew up listening to Pantera. That was my first real introduction into heavy music was Pantera. So, so it sucks. It sucks that I feel like I have a moral responsibility to no longer listen to the music.
You're a little embarrassed to show it to people?
Yeah. It's just
because that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I wouldn't show somebody this and be like, yeah, this is what I'm into.
I'm the only drummer in the room, so I got to bring up Vinny's sound because Vinny's drum sound, Dimebag's guitar, they accent each other, and even Rex Brown's bass, it all accents each other as a whole. Even back in the Glamtera stuff, it all worked together. I didn't know this until recently that their father was actually their producer up until Cowboys. So that's kind of where you get that sound or that complementary sound from.
Can I throw out that I don't think that the drums sound that amazing?
You can.
Throughout their career.
Sonically, or like the way they're played?
The way they're played. The technique.
See, I think it's the way that the way they're played. I think is an interesting thing about Pantera too. Is it's a very open, simplistic drum sound. It's not. I mean, I wouldn't say it's simplistic, but it serves the song and the riff. And I'm just such a riff guy that there's so many riffs on there that I can't deny the power of the riff.
Do you remember when Mudvayne put out The End of All Things to Come?
Yeah.
So there was a DVD with that record. Joe and I watched it. It was about 38 minutes of a producer explaining to them, very similar to Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
However, there's no denying that LD50 is, on a different planet than The End of All Things to Come.
It's because Ryan Martini went apeshit on it.
So when I hear somebody describe a drummer as playing more simplistic or a guitarist playing more simplistic and how it works with the song, I can't help but feel like it's one of those, it's dumbed down, but it's okay, buddy. Because to me, it was always, when I would sing, I would always sing to the extremes of my ability, which are laughably not very good. But it bothers me to hear kind of a dumbing down because, I hear the same thing that you're saying about a lot of Metallica fans, from a lot of Metallica fans.
Well, are you going to win this argument with Metallica?
Lars does what works with the song. Right, but me not being a drummer could get in and actually do more complex shit than Lars can. So there's this certain sense of like, yeah, it's simple, yeah, it works for the song or whatever, but like, does that make the drummer worth a mention, really?
I know what you mean. I understand your point.
Like, he keeps the beat. Like, okay, cool, you did your job, but did you stand above the rest?
Yeah, but his sideburns are the best.
Oh yeah, right, sideburns. I mean, that's
All right.
I know. I understand your point. I totally get it.
I feel like there's nothing but agreeance in this room right now, so I'm going to say, Eric,
I know.
You got to pull it off, man. Final thoughts on Pantera. Convince Dan.
Oh,
good luck, buddy.
I don't think I can convince Dan. I think he's pretty well convinced, but I do think that there are so many bands that exist now that we all love that would have no. I wouldn't say they have no existence. They'd be guitar players, but Pantera is in almost every metal. If you're a kid that played guitar and Pantera was a band that you loved, then it's made its way through into the way you write your music. And even if it's not even a metal, you're not even a metal band, the way you might take your approach to having fun and enjoying your musical life, I think all comes from Pantera. I don't think they're the best metal band of all time, but they're one of the most important, I guess what I would say. So even if you don't like them, you have to say that they made their stamp and they helped out many people, musicians and otherwise. But right now, currently, the way it looks, I don't know. It's their history is questionable, but that's not because of anybody but Phil. So my thing about Pantera is that exactly the previous thought is that Phil is the best thing in Pantera and the worst thing. And Dimebag
the best thing, really.
I don't know how to explain it. I'm bad, but they're an important band. They're one of the most important bands in history. I'll say that. I'll leave it at that.
I can get behind that.
I would agree with everything you said, except whenever you said Pantera, you'd replace it with Megadeth. Like I could see that.
I've listened to a lot of Megadeth in my life, and
dude, that'll work.
Love me some Megadeth, except Risk.
Yeah.
That's me. That's the only one. I bought it at Kmart. My mom drove me there.
Oh my god,
where's my street cred?
Dude,
where's the Blue Light Special?
Risk was literally the first record I bought with my own money.
Oh yeah.
Can you imagine my disappointment, even at that age? Go back and listen to the Megadeth episode. I'll tell you all about it.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I'm a poser. I agree.
Well, that didn't work nearly as well as I planned it.
Nope.
Actually, I'm pretty sure that didn't work at all.
Yeah, I think that went exactly the way I wanted it to.
Oh, you wanted everybody to prove Dan right? Is that what's going on here, Geoff?
Well,
I just wanted everybody to know how big of a dick Philip Anselmo is.
I mean, Joe, is that all you got, dude? Because, seriously, none of those dudes changed my opinion on Pantera at all. Like, I get it. Oh, my God, I'm supposed to feel the music. But, like, I'm sorry, I don't. I can't really help. Josh Toomey's cool. And I think he probably put up the best fight. But, honestly, after that, you've got Aaron with his, phone in. His performance was extremely phoned in. And, then you've got Brandon Kellum, who, that dude's just out of control anyway. So,
all right. Well, can you here hold my beer?
I'm gonna drink your beer.
Okay, drink my beer because I got another case in the car. I'll be right back.
You're not gonna change my mind.
I tried really hard.
And this entire facade that you've put on, that's like this charade. It's enough. They didn't change my mind. We're not gonna ever agree on this. So let's just leave it how it is. Okay, you called literally everybody. You called Josh Toomey. You called Aaron Kusterer. You called.
I never said.
You called Brandon Kellum, and that dude's insane anyway. And then you called Eric Hall, who ended up agreeing with me most of the time. Really, Joe? That was your secret fucking weapon?
No, dude. I never said Eric was my secret weapon.
Okay, then who's your secret fucking weapon?
Hi, Dan. It's me. I'm back.
Oh shit. Oh, hi, Josh.
Heard you talking a little smack on Pantera.
Not just a little bit of smack. I'm just giving my correct opinion about the band.
Does anybody know what happened to Geoff?
I passed him on the way in here. I'm not sure what happened, but
Okay. Well, we'll check in on him later.
And if you thought shit just got weird, then you are ready for this episode of Discography Discussion. I am Joe. That is Dan. That's Josh, apparently. And I guess we're talking about Pantera like all fucking night.
Well, shit, dude. I was not prepared for this.
Round fucking 5. What do you got now, Mr. T?
good job, Dan.
I'm not Mr. T. That's somebody else.
He's Mr. Phil the way he's looking over here.
Yeah, I don't know about all that shit.
Go ahead.
So, you've heard what some of the other contenders have to say, I would assume, as Joe's had you locked in that closet for I don't know how long.
That's right. Just filling me with rage and more rage.
Okay.
Well, Dan, I'm going to have to say that as much as you like to think you're right on some of it.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Come on, you're not helping me out here.
Definitely not what I was expecting.
Yeah, well, I am a Pantera fan. I've been a Pantera fan since the 90s. They were a instrumental part of my musical playing, my metal playing. But let's be honest, Phil's not the greatest lyricist out there. Dan's already pointed that out.
Discussed,
it's nothing personal. Some guys are not like that.
Does everybody have to fucking agree with you tonight?
I mean, that's the thing about speaking the truth is people are attracted to the truth.
You're
Joe.
right. That is the truth.
The
I'm
truth
sorry.
shall set you free, Dan. It shall set you
It's
free.
setting me free tonight, man.
My only beef with you would be your disdain for Dimebag Darrell.
I don't have a disdain
Rest in peace.
I don't have a disdain for
Tearing the
Dimebag
guy
Darrell.
down as if he's not a good guitar player? I mean...
Here's the thing. Just because he's dead doesn't mean that he's free from scrutiny.
Well, this is no joke.
Okay.
What did you do you know? So you say he's a good guitar player?
I think he's
good.
I think he's good. Yeah.
You don't think he's in the top 5 in the 90s?
Not in my opinion.
And so you had, who was your top 5 then, or your top 3?
Chuck Schuldiner.
Yeah,
one.
You've cleared that one.
Yeah. Kirk Hammett.
Yeah, you got this flip flop, but you're good. Keep going.
No argument here.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna give the number 3 spot to Kerry King. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, my Cat Strangler favorite.
Cat Stranglers have returned, apparently.
Yeah, but you don't see similarities between Time and Kerry, though. I mean, they're almost
Similarities.
the thrill and the shrill sounds that he
I think
makes.
the aggression with Kerry King is on a whole different level.
I mean, he's a disciple from Eddie Van Halen. What's not to like?
We're not here to talk about Eddie Van Halen.
He's a modern metal version of Eddie Van Halen.
We're not here to talk about Eddie Van Halen. We're going to talk about that in the future. Okay,
that would be nice.
It would be. But here's the thing. Seriously, where the hell is Geoff? Anyway, so
put an APB on him, please.
I just think that Dimebag is good. I think he's proficient. I'm not saying that he's bad. I don't listen to any of his stuff and say, okay, this is bad. But, like, it's one of those things that if you walk up to somebody and say, like, if I went to a metal show wearing a t-shirt that said, Dimebag is just an okay guitarist, I'd get my ass beat.
Oh, yeah. You probably wouldn't even live.
Yeah, but I mean,
you're lucky to be alive right now.
It's totally unjustified, though. Because, number one, it's just my opinion, which, as I've gone over many times, is correct. But
that's debatable. We'll debate that later.
But I just feel like he's good, but not great, not fantastic.
Okay, well then, what is it for you that doesn't make him great? What is he lacking then that doesn't make him in that upper echelon of guitar players?
Originality.
Do you think he copies his style? So that doesn't make him?
I think that a lot of stuff that Dimebag plays is derivative from '80s metal guitar players.
Well, everybody in the 90s was derivative.
Well, but everybody copies everybody,
directly derivative.
Everybody's
I hate to bring up Eddie Van Halen again, but it's like, okay, it's one of those things where he plays decent riffs. They're not exact rip-offs. His guitar tones copy Eddie Van Halen. His volume for sure. Like, you ever notice on a Pantera record, you turn it on, the guitars are louder than everything.
Well, that's probably ego there.
Oh yeah, it is, but it's distracting too from the rest of the band. You know, Josh Toomey wants to tell me that, like, oh yeah, man, if you listen to what's going on underneath it, I can't hear shit under that guitar. It's literally just sounds like Dimebag and Phil.
No, you can hear Vinnie Paul. He's a damn good drummer.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, sure.
He can keep the beat. I mean, you know. He's a
Yeah, so can Lars Ulrich.
well, that's debatable too.
He keeps the beat.
Again, that's debatable. I think you're thinking of Rob back there doing the drums for him at this point.
Yeah, maybe.
I just don't. I mean, I understand what you're saying with the lack of originality. Sure, he may sound very Eddie Van Halen because obviously that was a huge influence for him growing up.
The biggest that I've seen.
Yeah,
I hear a little bit of Kiss too.
Yeah, well, he was a huge Kiss fan, a real huge Kiss. So that would be no surprise why Pantera tried the glam metal before.
They were bad. They were bad Kiss.
Yeah, I mean, well,
they were.
essentially, Dime was a huge reason for that. Van Halen was his second favorite, so sure, I can understand that stuff.
But like the fact that you could hear that in his guitar playing says to me that it is a lack of originality.
Yeah, but okay, so then you put Kirk Hammett into two, and as I'm the biggest Kirk Hammett person around here, or even Joe is a tie.
I'm all about Hetfield.
You can't tell me when you listen to Kirk stuff that you don't hear Joe Satriani. I mean, he stuttered under Joe, and I could hear Joe
do a
stuff
little
on
bit.
there. I mean, but my point is,
But it doesn't sound
you can't-
exactly like.
You don't hear that with every guitar player that that their influence doesn't bleed through into their own work. I mean, it's inevitable.
Every
That's gonna
vocalist, every
happen.
drummer,
I mean,
everything.
everybody's a descendant from somebody else, or everybody's an influence in somebody else.
I hate to bring Chuck back up, but I really don't hear anybody that plays like Chuck.
Well, it's because nobody likes Chuck but you, apparently. Nobody else has brought him up.
I'm afraid. I'm afraid to disagree.
A lot of people like Chuck.
Well, maybe. I'm not saying he's bad,
I would
but
be that. I would be that guy that if somebody was wearing a T-shirt at a concert saying Chuck Schuldiner is just an okay guitar player,
I'm not saying he's
I'd
not
lose
an
my
okay
shit.
guitar player.
You know, like,
I would be willing to bet if you listen through, and if he were to tell you his influences, you go back and listen to his music that he grew up listening to, or his influences.
yeah,
and
no,
you're not
I mean,
going
it's
to
the
find
same
his stuff
shit
in there.
It's the same shit. It's the same mix-up of Iron Maiden and Kiss and
Which
Judas
is not
Priest
very
and all that.
difficult. So I mean, why is it different for him as opposed to
Because it
Dime
actually
or
sounds
Kirk or
different.
anybody?
There's a difference because Chuck took what
See,
they
I don't
did.
know the Dime stuff's
Chuck
all
took
that
what they
much
did
different.
and
Sure, his
put
solos
own,
may sound like that, but
he put his own spin on it though.
Eddie's was
Chuck
more of a
stuff sounds
virtuoso
like
sounding.
Chuck stuff. It's like I learned how to play guitar listening to these older bands, but I didn't copy what they were doing.
Dan, do you just have something against Southern metal?
He does. He always has.
I think maybe I do, but
He
I don't know.
always
I mean,
has.
I like the Southern stuff from He Is Legend, and I like Mailing to the Sons of Disaster, which I mean maybe those aren't Southern bands or whatever, but like. Yeah, I guess I'm not a big fan of the rebel flag, toting, redneck.
Well, that's gonna say I
testicles
think
on my
that's the biggest
truck, Pantera sticker on my face. Like I just I can't get behind that, man.
Dan and I talked Pantera in high school, and it was the same thing. It was that, Phil comes off as that tool douchebag guy in your gym class or your gym teacher, your drunken uncle that Hey, yeah, unfortunately, that's the truth. That's the image of Phil.
He represents abuse to me.
Yeah, and so I think Dan goes into this with already a predisposition of like, I can't give this a chance.
I feel
I did
like
give it a chance, man. I've been giving it a chance my whole fucking life.
I feel like the people in the room right now know more about Dan's past than most people, and we could probably, bring up anything to convince you that Pantera was actually good, but we've been trying for so long and haven't been able to pull it off.
Where the hell is Geoff?
Josh, can you give me anything?
I don't even know that we're ever going to. I mean, look at this guy. It's. I find the irony here that I'm basically looking at Phil here with a beard. I mean,
Phil's in much better physical shape than I am.
we don't know that. We don't know what he's up to lately. I mean, I
He's
saw
pretty much
him
in
with,
Down, that's it.
I saw the Down when I don't know 5-6 years ago, and I don't know. He was looking pretty shabby. So.
It still sounded like shit, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, it was, guys. It was like he tried to take. It was like the D team of Pantera trying to continue on.
Yikes.
And that's a crappy thing there. Because
so what was B team? Was B team Damage Plan?
Oh, I'm not even going to bring that up.
Because I mean, that's your boy.
Yeah. Well,
That's your boy Dimebag.
I don't. It's different style. I like more Hell Yeah. If you're going to go anything that they did.
Ugh.
But that's more Vinnie Paul and the guys from Mudvayne.
All right,
Dime's not. Dime, unfortunately, Dime's not a guy to be able to write your lyrics.
To be fair, Hell Yeah,
he plays guitar. That's all he was there for. He was a guitar player.
To be fair, though, that Hell Yeah was the first thing that anybody got Vinnie Paul to do musically.
After that, yeah.
After.
It would have been cool if they, didn't too. That would have been fine too.
Is it Hell Yeah or Vinnie Paul that you have something against now?
Well, I'm not a huge Hell Yeah fan
because it's just Mudvayne with a different drummer.
I mean, they're.
I'm not a fan.
It's mediocre.
It's enough for him to make money.
If you want to call all your fucking buddies to talk to me about Hell Yeah, then that's fine too.
Yeah, you guys are. I'm out on that. I like them and all, but yeah, they're not any kind of list for me. I'll follow. I don't know that we're ever going to convince Dan that Pantera is good. He's going to pick and choose his songs that he likes, and that may be it. Do you even have songs from them?
I like
that you
Cemetery Gates and Use My Third Arm.
So you like their so you like their Enter Sandman, and then
pretty much. Yep, pretty much.
All right,
Josh.
Well, Cemetery Gates is a great song because it doesn't sound like Pantera.
Hey, you know what else doesn't? That's kind of funny that you mentioned as Cat Scratch Fever. Their version of that is way better than Ted Nugent's ever was.
Oh, God, yeah.
Nothing against Ted. Like, I love listening to Ted growing up. But
not a Nugent fan either.
Well, it's because he's a crazy-ass redneck.
He is.
All right. Well,
not Dan's style.
Josh, you're the last thing that I had, the last person I thought that could get through to him. What are your final thoughts on Pantera?
I like Pantera, but for me, they were never in my top 3 metal, top 5 maybe. But again, a lot of that has to do with Dime, and my influences as a guitar player come from Van Halen, a lot of the 80s metal. I still think he's a great guitar player who has enough originality while still bringing, the sounds and the stuff that he grew up with. I just think knowing Dan, it doesn't matter what you throw at him. You could bring Dime back from the dead. Dan would still be like,
I'd be pretty impressed by that.
You guys, I don't know that you would. He'd be like, nah, I've seen it before.
I'd be like, all right, bring Chuck Schuldiner back from the dead. That's
that's exactly what happened.
It's funny that the two guitarists we argue about the most are dead.
This is a losing battle, unfortunately.
All right, Dan.
I know it's
Dan. All right.
You know what's what you do is just gang up with Dan. You just lock him in a room, strap him to, and he just listens to Pantera for 24 hours.
Are we doing some Clockwork Orange shit now?
Oh, exactly.
It's like
he
dude.
Watches the video.
It's kind of creeping me out that we haven't heard from Geoff in a while, and Josh is talking about tying people up and making them listen to stuff.
No, it's not what you think. I don't really know what you're talking about.
All right,
we're gonna have to
Dan.
call somebody on that.
Five rounds, 5 people: Josh Toomey, Aaron Kusterer, Brandon Kellum, Erik Hall, and Josh.
This guy back
and Josh
here.
just shows up and agrees with you. What are your final thoughts on Pantera?
I would say that Pantera is a really good band if you're the kind of guy that has a red pickup truck that has a lot of rust along the side, what you call age or detailing, and you're the guy that's got the solid chrome rubber testicles that hang from the back of your truck. I feel like Pantera is the perfect band for you, and if you're that guy, I highly recommend them. However, for everyone else, stick with death.
Oh, that's what it's all about.
I'm going to say Pantera is the best band in the middle of your catalog. Dimebag was the player that deserves the credit that he gets. He takes influences from everybody else's favorites because they were his, and he creates one product. And with him and Vinnie Paul and Rex, you have a very solid, heavy rhythm section. The band as a whole, name 10 songs that you like, because I like Pantera. I like listening to Pantera, but I don't sit down and have to listen to Pantera. And if you are the guy that does, you probably also listen to Hatebreed.
Oh.
And on that note, this has been episode 24 of Discography Discussion. Actually, guys, I fucked up. This was totally episode 22. Sorry. Thank you for listening. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at discussmetal. Subscribe to our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher. Visit discussmetal.com for all things discography discussion, and please send questions and comments to danandjoeshow@gmail.com. If you are not a patron, you definitely should become one now.
Give me your money!
$1 at a time.
$1 at a time. Hey everybody, I just wanted to take some time to say thank you to everyone who helped us out with this episode. It was a blast. Links to all of our guests will be in the show notes. Josh Toomey from Talk To Me Podcast. You can find him at talktomepod.com or on Twitter at TalkToMeTalk. Aaron Kusterer, freelance guitarist. He's currently playing with Twisted Gypsy in Los Angeles, so if you're local, go check them out. You can find him at aaronkusterer.com or at Aaron Kusterer on Twitter. Brandon Kellum and the American Standards, you can find them at americanstandards.bandcamp.com. All their records are available there, and on Twitter at American Standards. And Eric Hall, Shoot the Shred, you can find him at SharePod on Twitter or at sharepod.simplecast.fm. Again, thanks everyone. We had a blast doing this. Thank you again, everybody, for listening and for subscribing. We will see you guys next week.